Perdón.
Bien. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you, Isanet, for organizing this very nice seminar. So today I'm going to present to you what I've been doing in the last years. So it's a lot of stuff into a few slides. So I started with my interest on islands and big and small islands, let's say, since my PhD. The PhD was about the Aeolian Islands that are in the northeastern part of Sicily. And then I went on with my first postdoc in Naples with the project Brains to Islands. It was about the islands of the Southern Tyrrhenian. And then I moved to the like a bit more to south in the Canary Islands to work on another project, always on islands, because I was curious to see how they were working about it. And then after, let's say, a small parenthesis of 1 year about more in general, like not insular prehistory. Then I moved here last year to work with Ethel with this project that I will present more in detail. So why islands? Why I am so passionate about them? In Italian we say nella botte piccola c'è il vino buono. It means that the good wine is in the small barrel. So what can we take? What kind of good information we can take from small islands? We consider, I mean, as archaeologists, but also biologists, ecologists, consider islands as scale models of reality, basically, or reality, of all the other places that are not islands. So basically, the smaller the island, the easiest it should be, the easier to see how phenomena develop. And then from analyzing that in this our small model, we can try and understand all the rest of the dynamics in the not insular environments. So this is the theory. Then, of course, everyone has his own opinion and different opinions on that. The other important thing about islands is that usually there are some dynamics happening that are very specific. So, for example, humans in time decided to adapt to the resources that were available on the islands in different ways. Here I have just some very quick examples. For example, the fact that many times on small islands there is the megalithism. This is very common all around the Mediterranean from the Neolithic until the Iron Age. So we're talking especially about prehistory. But I show here also another example that is the so-called Giardino Pantesco. It's like a Pantescan garden, let's say, where this is, of course, in more recent times, they use the stones to create some kind of towers around one single tree to cultivate it. So they developed this very special, let's say, special technique to try to solve the problems of aridity that they have in this island. This is part of my PhD thesis. I'm not going to present everything, of course, just a small part. And this small part is about the fact that in two different islands where I worked, one is Filicudi, that is here, and the other one is Lipari. They developed different architectures, so different kind of huts, depending probably on the vegetation that they had available. So, for example, in Filicudi, we see that they are selecting mostly what they have. Of course, there are differences from one after another, but of course, they're using mostly maquis, while in Lipari, there is a bigger island with very different ecological areas. They are using also, of course, erica is always very, very, very important, but they are also using other species like the oaks, like riparia species and pines that are almost absent from Filicudi and also from other islands. You can read about that. I published the thesis. I can send you a PDF. It's not an ad. You don't have to pay for it. I can send you a PDF and also a couple of other papers that I published after my thesis. That is also about the carpological remains and also about the demography. So it's a very multidisciplinary work. So this is the postdoc that I had in Naples. I started working on another volcanic island that is, as you can see here, so the Aeolian Islands are on the northeastern part, Ustica is on the northwestern part. It's again one very small island, around 9 square kilometers. And after a couple of years of surveys, we had the chance to find this site. It is a Neolithic site, mid-Neolithic site, with a megalithic funerary structure. And we've already published, once again, I can send you all the papers. We've already published the lithic assemblages, the first preliminary results about zoarchaeology and archaeobotany. and we are now working on one on the AMS datings. But the future step is to publish a big multidisciplinary paper about all the results. So what I'm doing now here in IPHES, I'm doing this new project. It's called SILVA. It's new and old at the same time, let's say, because of course we are adding some new sites, but let's say that the aim is more or less always the same. So trying to see if we can find new sites and understand better, of course, the pattern of settlement and of human occupation of the island, possibly the most ancient phases. But for me, then, of course, the most important thing is to understand how humans decided to use their resources, especially plant resources. So basically, I restarted doing some field work in the northern islands, but then I also moved to the southern islands that I think are especially interesting because they are literally in the middle between Northern Africa and Sicily, and so especially for some phases like Meso-Neolithic phases, they can be their understanding can be very crucial. And so in Ustica, we had a new field work at the very beginning of my project here. So end of 2022, I decided to go to do machine flotation because the amount of wood charcoals that I recovered was very low. So the only way was to go up with the amount of soil to flotate, and that's how now I still don't have the final counts, but I'm characterizing more in more specifically the species, and it confirms what I already found before and added some new species, and also the presence of subspecies that are now absent from the island. So this is very interesting also in terms of conservation. And at the same time, we're working with the zooarchaeologists about the analysis of the strontium to see if the animals were present on the island or were brought when they were already dead, basically. So if there were some like shepherd activities on the island, and for now it's confirmed. And also we are analyzing the fact that the caprins that are present, especially the sheep, have a very small size compared to the same or to the sheep, sorry, of the same phases, but also from the recent ones in Sicily. So they were probably selecting a very special breed to bring to the island. And then, of course, I told it's less than 9 square kilometers, so resources are very limited. And also we're working on the human DNA, and I really hope that NEET can start her work also on the micro remains from because it's I'm not going into detail, but it's a funerary extraction, so we have also human deposition, and we want to sample the dental calculus from the teeth and also the grinding stones to see if we can find the micro remains. So moving again to the Aeolian Islands, this is the very nice storehouse where I went this summer. This is probably one of the best ones that I've ever seen in Italy because it's so perfectly arranged and everything. And all the boxes are, how do you say, like anti-fire. So they are fireproof. Maybe it's the right word. I've never seen something like that. I was like, and it was nice because they told me, yes, there are maybe some wood charcoals coming from the 50s. I was like, usually you find that, when they give you just a small bag and whatever. And then there were like 5 boxes. And they were filled with these newspapers. So I didn't need the tag because the newspapers had the day and everything. And they were so nice because they are 2 different Neolithic sites. When I showed this picture to Ethel, Ethel was like, you have to date them, because maybe it's too much to be Neolithic. So I still don't know. I just subsampled them, but I haven't worked on that because, it was in June 23 and it was a very long summer. But it is promising. But of course, we have to check if this is really Neolithic. I have to say that all the excavation from these years, the 50s, the 60s, were very well developed by the archaeologists at the time. So I trust them, but I will let you know in some months. The other island is Alicudi, and it's very small. It's like 5 square kilometers, but it has a very high altitude. So it was basically 1 week of survey going up and down the stairs. And we know that there is a Bronze Age site, but it's just, they found also in the 50s, I think, or maybe in the 60s, some potters and some grinding tools. I have to say that so far the results are not that promising, but I trust the fact that the island was in a very important position, because basically from there you can literally see not just Ustica and all the Aeolian Islands, but you can see until the mountains of Palermo. You can see also the volcano, the Etna volcano. So it's literally like a very strategic place to settle. And also, even if it's not that evident, but there are some terraces that could be occupied, because this is very similar in terms of settlement strategy of what we see also from other of the islands of the Bronze Age. So I still have like confidence that we can find something. And also just one thing that I was thinking about for a project I can do with Ethel in 2036 when we'll have the time, that I try to count all the surface of the coast around the island, because the other islands have many cliffs. And Alicudi is interesting because there is basically a beach all around the island. And it would be interesting to see how many beached wood could be collected from the many hectares. This, of course, not just to this island, but in general, to consider that in this island, they could have like exploitation of wood that was not local, was not from the island, but maybe coming from the other islands or from the coast. Again, this summer, I went to another of the islands, that is Lampedusa. We are actually going back again in 1 week with Maria Estelle Ols. She's doing her Erasmus traineeship here with me and Ethel. And we're going to see if we can find some sites. We know for sure that there was a Neolithic occupation. It's a quite early phase, probably. But as you can see, the island is quite eroded. So it is very difficult. I have to say that, once again, 1 week of survey was not that conclusive. But I'm curious this time to go and see if there are some caves. As you can see, there are some traces of what has been interpreted also as megalithism, but it's not very clear. You can see another stone structure, but nothing in terms of modern archaeology, especially prehistory, has ever been done on Lampedusa. But from my point of view and from our point of view, it is very interesting because the island was abandoned many times and then reoccupied in the end, the mid of the 19th century. And there was a quite dense cover of woodland that was basically exploited. And now the island is almost desert. So in maybe 70 years' time, there were also some laws that try to stop the exploitation of these resources from the island to other islands. But now the island is really quite desertified. So and then I'm 4 minutes. Okay, perfect. Okay. And then, yes, I show you Pantelleria Island. That is the biggest one of the ones that I'm analyzing. It's also volcanic. Maybe Lampedusa is the only one that is not volcanic. All the other islands are. And the island is definitely, let's say, easier to settle somehow because there are many more planned areas and it's quite big, but also it's more distant from the coast. So we don't know very much about the first occupation of the island. We do know the occupation during the Bronze Age that has been excavating for maybe 20 or 30 years now by University of Bologna, where they found this Middle Bronze Age site. And these are the very fast, still not final results that I'm noticing is that these are two different phases. This is the oldest one. This is the most recent. We're talking about like 300 years because more or less it was occupied for 300 years. And you can see like just by colors that, for example, this most ancient part is characterized by the exploitation once again of Erica, but this most recent part is characterized more by the exploitation of conifers and pines. And so I totally blindly then compared the first data also by the zooarchaeologists and the garpologists, and they see also differences between the two phases. So we really have to work together to see if there are changes in the strategies from basically all the points of view, and this is something I would like to work on in the next months specifically. But then talking with Ed, I was like, you know that in Pantelleria Island there are some other excavation going on. They are from historical times. It's two sites, Lago di Venere and Acropoli. And so I asked her if it was worth the time and the efforts to do the sampling also there, because in the end we want to collect information about the vegetation that was present, exploited in different phases. So they are excavating, why not adding also this data, even if it's not prehistory? And that's what we decided to do. So I went on the excavation of the Canadian University for the Punic Roman satyr close to the Lago di Venere. And also together with Sabrina Bianco, we went to the excavation of the German University of Tübingen in the Acropoli. And this is us going down in this cistern. We didn't know that we had to go in this hole for other 5.5 meters, something like that. But it was quite fun. And so this is also something that I'm working on now. Why? First of all, because they want to do some C14 for this site, but also because once again, we talked with Ethel. I have to develop for my Marie Curie also one part of training, and I decided to do training in carbon-13 analysis in between Lleida and Montpellier. We decided to focus just on the island of Pantelleria for this. Why? Because in Pantelleria there is the presence of the most eastern presence of Pinus pinaster. So there is the natural coexistence of Alepensis and pinaster. So we decided also with Jordi Voltas and Monica Aguilera that we might, let's say, co-tutor in Lleida to sample the modern pines from the island and compare them with the archaeological ones. How does it work? Very, very quickly. So the plant stores an amount of carbon that is depending on the time, let's say, that opens or closes their stomata. So if it's open, so it means there is more humidity, there is more storage of carbon. If the stomata are closed, so if there is aridity, basically there is a lower amount of carbon. So if we take, of course, many samples, we can make a mean and decide more or less if in one phase or another, there is more or less availability of humidity for the plant. And so we had to do, again, with Sabrina, this summer, we had to do some samples, record the modern pines in 4 different stations, 4 different sites of the island with different altitudes. So to see also potential differences, consider that the island goes up to 850 meters, I think. So there is like a huge gradient of difference. And basically then I'm working on this. I'm going to Lleida next week for this. But that's what we are going to do. We are going to create a reference local model, because of course islands can have very many differences between one island and another. And also I put this picture that I actually took some years ago in Aeolian Islands, but this is something to consider, that in islands the so-called hidden rain is a phenomenon that is very, very spread. So even if there is not much rain, like proper rain, they have much humidity available many times. So this is something to take in consideration when we reconstruct the vegetation. And then after doing the carbon-13 on the the model references, I will perform the analysis on the archaeological wood charcoal on the pines, of course, to see if we can reconstruct the change also in the past of humidity. So this is just to finally summarize what I'm going to do. I want to finish the work and publish the final results of Ustica, even if I would like to go back to do like in another site, not the same that you saw from the Neolithic. In the Aeolian Islands, probably the only one where we're going to do some surveys and maybe some test pits is Alicudi. In Pantelleria, I already have a lot of materials to analyze, and we have the new survey in Lampedusa. And then finally, I didn't mention this because it's just datings on all the excavation of Linos Island that is very close to Lampedusa. So it's a lot. It's still early to have more results, because I've spent at this moment more time doing field work than an analysis, more than giving results. But maybe in some months I will have more. Thank you.